Have you ever wondered why some of the most successful people seem to be doing less, but achieving more? It's easy to think they must have some hidden advantage, some secret we weren't taught in school. But here's the truth. Maybe they've just mastered what we call the lazy ambition paradox. It sounds like a contradiction, but it might actually be the smartest way to live in a world obsessed with hustle. Now imagine this. You're not lazy because you lack ambition. You're lazy because you're ambitious. You don't want to waste time, burn out, or chase every opportunity just to end up exhausted. You want results, but not at the cost of your health, your peace, or your soul. That's not sloth, that's wisdom. And across time, philosophy, science, and spirituality have whispered this same truth in different ways. Let's rewind to the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He wasn't known for doing everything. He was known for doing the right things. His life was marked by intentional pauses, strategic silences, and selective action. When he could delegate, he did. When he needed to retreat, he withdrew. He embodied the art of doing less, so that what he did truly mattered. Even in quantum physics, we see a parallel. Systems naturally settle into minimal energy states, the most stable, most efficient positions possible. And in social psychology, research shows how small, deliberate actions often trigger massive ripple effects. Whether it's decision-making, habits, or relationships, the smallest hinges often swing the biggest doors. So, what if your so-called laziness is really an instinct for alignment? What if it's your inner wisdom telling you to stop scattering your energy and start focusing it? In this script, we'll unpack exactly that and give you not just ideas, but practical tools and ancient insights to turn this into your superpower. You'll see how spiritual productivity principles, mental energy hacks, and even quantum physics synergy can help you be lazy effectively, but in a way that actually makes you more successful. This isn't about doing nothing. It's about stopping what doesn't serve you and starting what truly moves the needle. Ready? Let's reframe everything you thought you knew about productivity. Embracing strategic laziness as self-mastery. Let's challenge an old belief that laziness is something to fight, to shame, or to fix. What if it's not a flaw, but a hidden compass? One that points toward a deeper form of self-mastery. Strategic laziness isn't about doing nothing. It's about refusing to waste yourself on things that don't truly move your life forward. Think about it. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history didn't come from non-stop grinding. They came from those who stopped, questioned the rules, and chose a smarter path. It's like Jean-Paul Sartre once suggested. We define ourselves by our choices. And choosing not to act, in a world that worships busyness, can be the most powerful act of all. It's a declaration of intention, of clarity, of knowing where your energy belongs. This brings us to a beautiful, lesser-known spiritual text from ancient China, The Secret of the Golden Flower. Unlike the more popular Tao Te Ching, this work focuses on aligning with the energy already inside you. It teaches that true power doesn't come from constant motion, but from refining your focus inward. The more you align with that inner current, the less you need to force anything. It's a manual for effortless mastery. And this idea isn't just Eastern. Across religious and philosophical traditions, we find echoes of this truth. Krishnamurti called it choiceless awareness, a state where action flows naturally because you're no longer caught in the noise of needless decisions. David Hume, the father of modern empiricism, taught us that knowledge comes through lived experience, not theories. In the same way, the benefits of strategic laziness aren't abstract. They're proven by outcomes, by real-world clarity, by less stress, more peace, and better results. So let's stop labeling ourselves lazy. You're not lazy. You're discerning. You sense there's a better way, and you're right. Strategic laziness is self-respect in action. It's how we reclaim personal energy, manage mental bandwidth, and invest only in high-value activities. When you embrace this, you're not avoiding life. You're finally stepping into it with purpose. The 80-20 rule with compassionate focus. You've probably heard of the 80-20 rule before. That 80% of your results come from just 20% of your actions. But have you ever thought of it as a path to compassion? Not just for others, but for yourself? Strategic laziness is not only about trimming the fat from your to-do list. It's about offering yourself the kindness of clarity. the permission to stop hustling for things that barely move the needle. Think about how this principle shows up everywhere. In business, 20% of clients generate 80% of revenue. In social circles, a few relationships carry most of our emotional weight. Even in yoga, teachers often say that a consistent 20% of practice gives 80% of the internal transformation. When you realize this, you stop chasing more, and you start focusing on what actually matters. Aristotle's virtue ethics ties beautifully into this. He taught that living well isn't about trying to do everything right, but about cultivating the right character traits. The core virtues, courage, temperance, wisdom, are few but powerful. When you focus on those essential 20%, your entire moral and emotional life begins to align. There's an even deeper lesson in a Christian mystical text you may not have heard of, The Cloud of Unknowing. This 14th century work says that all lesser spiritual practices are distractions if they take you away from the core aim, union with the divine. The author urges readers to set aside the noise and center themselves in a quiet love that surpasses knowledge. That's the 80-20 principle applied to the soul. Focus on the one thing that matters, and everything else fades. Simone de Beauvoir once said that how we spend our attention is a reflection of our ethics. If you're constantly busy with low-impact tasks, you're not just wasting time, you're wasting the part of yourself that could be contributing meaningfully to life. This isn't about becoming cold or utilitarian. It's about compassionate focus. Knowing that your energy is sacred. Knowing that to show up well in the world, you first have to protect your time and attention from being scattered. So try this today. Look at your tasks, your goals, your relationships, and ask yourself, what's the 20% that gives me most of my joy, impact, and growth? Then honor that. Build around that. Because once you start choosing from your core, everything becomes clearer, lighter, and more powerful. That's the essence of strategic laziness benefits. Less work, more life. Decision minimization and preserving mental energy. Here's something we rarely talk about. Your brain has limits. Not limits of potential, but limits of energy. Every decision you make burns a little fuel. And when you spend your day deciding what to wear, what to eat, whether to check your phone or not, you quietly deplete the very power you need for the big, meaningful stuff. Carl Jung understood this well. He believed the psyche has limited libidinal energy, a kind of life force we unconsciously spend on everything from thinking to choosing. So if you're making hundreds of tiny decisions each day, don't be surprised if by afternoon your willpower's gone. That's not weakness. That's biology. Now picture this. What if your life was designed to remove most of those choices automatically? Imagine a system that lets you wake up and just flow. That's where decision minimization becomes a mental energy hack and a form of spiritual productivity. One thinker who truly grasped the cost of mental clutter was G.I. Gurdjieff. In Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson, he presents a world where most people live like machines, running loops, repeating habits, never waking up to their true selves. His answer? Reduce mechanical behavior. Simplify your decisions. Only then can higher consciousness emerge. His approach wasn't about laziness. It was about focus as a doorway to awakening. Jean Piaget, the cognitive development pioneer, adds another layer. He found that children learn best when options are limited. Too many choices can actually stunt learning. And guess what? Adults aren't that different. We crave freedom, but too much freedom, in the form of constant micro-decisions, cripples momentum. That's why systems matter. Having policies for your life means you automate repetitive tasks and preserve your creative fire. Maybe it's eating the same breakfast every morning, batching emails once a day, or even wearing similar clothes all week. These minimal effort hacks might sound boring, but they free up space for your genius to breathe. So if you've been feeling scattered or mentally foggy, maybe it's not about motivation. Maybe it's time to simplify. Remember, brilliance doesn't come from being constantly active. It comes from being aligned. Efficient decision-making is self-love, and it's one of the quietest, most transformative daily habits you can cultivate. Environment design, the Tao of effortless action. Sometimes it's not your willpower that's weak. It's your environment that's working against you. If your space, your tools, your habits are filled with friction, no amount of motivation will save you. That's why environment beats willpower every time. Laozi, in the Tao Te Ching, spoke of Wu Wei, the principle of action through non-action. It doesn't mean passivity. It means creating a life that flows so naturally, the effort becomes invisible. You're not forcing yourself to do the right thing. It's just the most obvious thing in the environment you've designed. Let's get practical. Imagine waking up and your journal is already on your desk. Your phone is out of reach. Your breakfast is prepped. Your calendar only shows your most meaningful tasks. That's focus environment setup. It's not about grinding harder. It's about setting the stage so that excellence becomes the path of least resistance. An ancient but overlooked yoga manual called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika shares something similar. While most people quote Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, this text focuses more on preparation, on cleaning the body, shaping the breath, structuring the surroundings to awaken energy. It's not sexy, but it works. Just like setting up your workspace, your tech, and even your social circle to support, not sabotage, your goals. Psychologist Eric from A Voice of Humanistic Wisdom said that love and creativity don't just emerge from within. They're shaped by the structures around us. He argued that freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the presence of systems that support flourishing. In other words, systematic life design isn't a luxury. It's how you make your best self feel at home. And there's even a spiritual dimension to this. In the Quran, Surah 13:11 reminds us that God does not change the condition of a people until they change what is in themselves. But changing what's in you often begins with shifting what's around you. Clean your space, protect your time, nourish your energy, make it hard to fail and easy to flow. That's not just smart, it's sacred. Systems over goals, evolving beyond linear achievement. You've been told your whole life to set goals. Big ones, smart ones, long-term, short-term, life-changing goals. But what if that approach is backward? What if the secret to real, lasting growth isn't about chasing endpoints, but about refining your systems? When you build your life around goals alone, you're stuck in a loop. You reach a target, feel a quick rush of satisfaction. Then you fall into a slump. Motivation disappears, and suddenly you're setting the next goal, hoping it'll fill the gap. It's the hamster wheel of modern achievement. But professionals, creatives, and visionaries, those who build meaningful lives, don't rely on one-off wins. They rely on repeatable processes that evolve them over time. That's the core of this idea, from goals to systems. And it's not new. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke often of process over perfection. He believed that becoming isn't about arriving somewhere. It's about who you're continually becoming through the structure of your daily actions. When you focus on systems, you remove the ego from success. You don't just try to achieve, you become. A lesser-known but fascinating book, Tertium Organum by P. D. Ouspensky, takes this even further. Ouspensky explores the idea that higher consciousness requires a rethinking of time itself, not as a straight line, but as something more dimensional. When you shift from linear goals to cyclical systems, you start to sense that truth. Systems grow with you. They adapt, self-correct, and multiply results over time. Thomas Aquinas showed a similar method in theology, integrating Aristotelian logic into faith. Not just believing, but structuring belief into a coherent framework. That's what systems are. Not cages, but frameworks for freedom. They make success predictable, sustainable, and aligned with who you are becoming. Start by asking yourself, what's one outcome you desire, and what system would guarantee you move toward it every day? Writing 500 words a day. Stretching for 10 minutes each morning. Checking your email only twice per day. These aren't goals. They're paths. And the beauty is, once systems are in place, you don't need to rely on mood or willpower anymore. They carry you forward, even on the hard days. So stop obsessing over the finish line. Build the track instead. That's how strategic laziness becomes powerful. Systems are your quiet allies, automating personal tasks, simplifying complexity, and helping you live with momentum, not stress. Minimum effective dose, maximizing output with minimal input. We're conditioned to believe that more effort equals more value. More hours, more sweat, more hustle. But nature doesn't work that way. Neither does energy. And certainly not your mind. There's a reason why in quantum physics, the tiniest units, like Planck's constant, carry massive implications for how the entire universe behaves. The smallest possible action can create the largest shifts. That's the heart of the minimum effective dose. Not how much can you do, but what's the least you need to do to get the greatest return. It's a concept many ancient teachings quietly echoed. In Ayurveda, daily balance isn't achieved through intense overhauls. It comes from consistent, tiny rituals: warm water in the morning, herbs before sleep, breathing with awareness. These may seem insignificant, but they anchor your system deeply. In the long run, they prevent burnout and sustain harmony. Now let's bring in a mystical voice you might not have encountered before. The Book of Mirdad by Mikhail Naimi. It's a spiritual allegory, much like The Prophet by his friend Khalil Gibran. In it, Mirdad teaches that truth doesn't thunder. It whispers. That one small word, spoken in clarity, can shift a life. That a moment of real seeing can replace years of wandering. His teachings show how small spiritual actions, done with presence, can ripple through time. It's the same in your work, your habits, your routines. You don't need to do everything. You need to identify your highest leverage points. This is how you move from busyness to purpose. From scattered hustle to self-directed efficiency. Want better health? Don't train for hours. Start walking after dinner every day. Want to write a book? Don't outline the whole thing. Just write for 20 focused minutes. Want to grow spiritually? You don't need to meditate for hours. Just sit in stillness for 5 minutes with your full heart. Strategic laziness benefits live here, in doing less, but doing it well. The minimum effective dose is a tool for freedom. Not just because it saves time, but because it keeps your nervous system calm, your energy intact, and your mind focused on what truly matters. Delegation as mutual empowerment. Here's a truth that can change your life. You don't have to do it all. And more importantly, you shouldn't. Delegation isn't about laziness. It's about wisdom. It's about knowing where your genius lives and freeing up the bandwidth to focus it. It's the art of saying, this task is valuable, but someone else can do it better, or faster, or with more focus. It's how you start to live the less is more philosophy, not just in theory, but in practice. Thinkers like Hannah Arendt understood that society only works when effort is shared. Her work on collective action reminds us that progress is a team effort. If we insist on doing everything ourselves, we don't just suffer, we stall. Delegation is how things scale. It's how creativity breathes. And here's where we meet a short but spiritually potent work, the Mandukya Upanishad. It's only 12 verses long, but it unveils the 4 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the silent observer beneath them all. The brilliance of the text isn't in its length, but its depth. It shows how power doesn't require volume. A single insight, offered with clarity, can transform perception. And that's the spirit of delegation, trusting that others can carry a piece of your vision without diluting its depth. Noam Chomsky's work in Language and Society offers a structural insight here too. He argues that the most complex systems in language, or in life, are built from simple, replicable parts. Delegation works the same way. By distributing small components, the whole becomes stronger, more coherent. Practically, this means letting go. Outsource low-impact tasks. Train a team. Use automation tools. Free yourself from the busy work that's cluttering your creative space. Delegate or automate whatever doesn't require your unique brilliance. When you do this, you reclaim the 2 most valuable things in your life: your time and your attention. And you gift those to what only you can do, your high-return activities. That's not just smart. That's spiritually aligned leadership. Creating assets that work while you sleep. There's a sacred kind of freedom that comes when your work continues serving the world, even when you're resting. Not because you're pushing harder, but because you've built something sustainable, something alive without constant oversight. This is the shift from time for money to value for time. And the most powerful way to make that shift is by creating assets, digital, intellectual, creative, that continue to move without you. It's how you be free from busy work. Spinoza, the rationalist philosopher, once wrote about structured freedom, the kind that doesn't come from doing whatever you want, but from building systems that make freedom possible. That's what passive income, evergreen products, and creative autonomy are. Structured freedom. Whether it's an ebook, an online course, a YouTube video, or a newsletter, once it's built, it works without your hands. This approach mirrors the wisdom in the lesser-known Taoist classic, Zhuangzi. Unlike the Tao Te Ching, which focuses on principle, Zhuangzi speaks in stories, illustrating how spontaneity, nature, and non-resistance lead to effortlessness. One tale speaks of a cook whose knife never dulls because he follows the natural lines in the meat. That's what assets do. They follow the natural line of your gifts, and once sharpened, they cut clean for years. In modern spirituality, Esther Hicks often speaks of letting the universe handle the how. That's not just mysticism, it's strategy. Creating systems and products that handle the how means you get to live more in the what and the why. You get to spend your time in vision, not in maintenance. So ask yourself, what's one thing you can build this year that will serve others even while you sleep? Because that truly is one of the highest forms of spiritual productivity. You create once and bless endlessly. Lifestyle transformation via strategic efficiency. Let's talk about what happens when strategic laziness isn't just a productivity trick, but a way of life. Imagine if your whole lifestyle became a kind of living system, optimized, unburdened, deeply aligned. No more cluttered schedules. No more overextending for the sake of appearances. Just sustainable rhythm, spiritual clarity, and focused effort on what actually matters. That's what we mean by strategic efficiency. Not a shortcut, but a shift in consciousness. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, said it best. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Stoicism isn't about being rigid. It's about refining life down to its most essential movements. Every day can be sacred when it's free from noise. Every task can be purposeful when chosen with awareness. Now consider a powerful Buddhist text that's often overlooked, the Ragama Sutra. It teaches that truth isn't grasped by chasing after experience, but by turning inward and simplifying perception. Just as the sage filters out distractions to see clearly, so too can we use strategic laziness to clear away the fog in daily life. The result? A lifestyle that reflects insight rather than impulse. This is where spiritual meets practical. In Sufism, and even older Zoroastrian teachings, there's a reverence for simplicity, not as deprivation, but as a doorway to presence. The idea is this: when you stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter, you begin to see more clearly. The mundane becomes meaningful. The ordinary becomes sacred. Simplifying your outer life opens space for your inner world to breathe. Practically, it's about adopting minimalism for success. Automate finance. Keep meals simple but nourishing. Own fewer tools, but master them. Let your wardrobe reflect ease. Create routines that replenish you. These aren't restrictions, they're containers for freedom. Strategic efficiency means you no longer measure success by how much you're doing, but by how much life you're actually living. And when your life starts to reflect intention over urgency, the need to constantly push vanishes. Instead, you align with flow. That's where peace lives. That's where transformation begins. Synthesizing spiritual, philosophical, and practical tools. By now, it's probably clear, the ambitious but lazy mindset isn't laziness at all. It's wisdom. It's a form of mastery rooted in centuries of human insight, spiritual tradition, and scientific discovery. And the beauty of this approach is how many disciplines it naturally brings together. In the philosophy of mind, thinkers like Alan Watts reminded us that life is a dance, not a destination. That we don't march toward meaning, we flow with it. Strategic laziness honors that dance. You step back when needed. You choose rhythm over resistance. You trust the silence between actions just as much as the actions themselves. Immanuel Kant spoke of the bridge between reason and morality. Today, we need a similar bridge between productivity and purpose. You can be efficient and still spiritual. You can be focused and still free. This blend is not a contradiction. It's a kind of integration. The art of spiritual productivity principles isn't about squeezing more into your day. It's about structuring your time so your soul has space to rise. There's a brilliant but lesser-known work that mirrors this synthesis. Fut al-Makiya by Ibn Arabi. In it, He describes the openings of spiritual realities, unfolding gradually as a person aligns their inner and outer life. The insights don't arrive through strain, but through stillness, system, and surrender. His message? True transformation is less about striving and more about attunement. When you apply that thinking, everything we've talked about comes together. You design your environment to reduce friction. You simplify decisions to protect energy. You move from goals to systems. You prioritize high-value activities and delegate low-impact ones. And in doing so, you create a lifestyle where less work really does mean more clarity, more impact, and more joy. Even Jean-Jacques Rousseau, known for his political philosophy, echoed this truth. Freedom doesn't mean doing everything. It means choosing wisely what not to do. That's the heartbeat of advanced self-management. Not control, but alignment. So this mindset isn't scattered. It's whole. It integrates the esoteric with the practical. It bridges mysticism with mechanics. It's not just a way to get things done. It's a way to become who you're meant to be, without burning out trying. Embrace the paradox. Now, let's bring it all home. If there's one truth that echoes through everything we've explored, it's this. Sometimes, doing less is the surest path to becoming more. The world may praise endless hustle, but wisdom whispers something else. It tells us to pause, to question, to align, and to be lazy effectively, not as avoidance, but as a form of intelligent living. We've reframed laziness as strategic clarity. We've seen how the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the findings of cognitive psychology, and the quiet strength of spiritual texts all point toward one core idea. Stop scattering your energy. Start focusing it. Through environment design, efficient decision-making, delegation, and systems thinking, we've uncovered a truth that most of the world misses. Less really can be more if done with precision. From the ancient insight of Zhuangzi to the practical philosophies of Nietzsche, Aquinas, and Kant, the message is universal. Wisdom isn't about doing more. It's about knowing where your energy truly belongs. We've walked through a dozen powerful strategies, each one designed to shift you from reactive living to intention-based living. The kind of life where you reclaim your personal energy, simplify your schedule, and finally feel free from busy work. Where your mind is clear, your efforts are focused, and your lifestyle reflects not just ambition, but awareness. So here's your quiet challenge. What's one low-impact habit you can let go of today? And what's one high-impact system you can implement tomorrow? Because at the end of the day, spiritual growth, personal success, and even peace of mind don't come from piling on more. They come from stripping away the unnecessary and focusing on what truly matters. That's the lazy ambition paradox. That's the power of less work, more depth. Let this not just be information, but transformation. Make space. Move with clarity. Align with purpose. And remember, your laziness might not be a weakness at all. It might just be your inner